Well, Kevin Hassett, the White House National Economic Council director, was seen on CNBC speaking about the job report of November and what's likely to be his next goals if he's elected as the new Fed's chairman in simple terms. He's likely to be the next, or Trump's favorite candidate, to be turning out to be the next candidate for either to replace Powell when Powell leaves or in the Feds in May, in simple terms. We should also try to understand why Kevin's Hassett interview is kind of really needed in the first place. Why is it really conducted in one or the other? We should try to understand that Kevin Hassett has an idea, okay? In one way, I agree with him. In one way, I don't agree with him. We should also try to understand his ideology and his mind, the way he persuades everything. Is kind of an economist, one or the other. One way he could be just talking, maybe to get up right there, or in the other way he could be like responding to the real factors the U.S. economy is really facing. And in one or the other, I would agree with him 50% or 40%, and the 60 I may declare him off in one or the other. We should also try to understand that one of the key factors he's highly red flagged is his relationship with Trump. Most of the time, he's highly reflected as someone who's close to being an ally of Trump. So that means the Fed won't be really independent, one or the other. However, he disclaimed that by saying that he can be easily the Fed's independence really matters a lot. So he forced himself to be ready to comply with the Feds other than the Trump, which also leaves us in a bazar. We should try to understand what did he say in this interview. Well, he spoke about the AI productivity. Regardless, we should first also look at the job report of November. In simple terms, the total private sector jobs added was around from 120 to 121k jobs that was added, and from the federal government, jobs were lost. That was almost 160k jobs were lost by our program initiated in the springs, in simple terms. Well, regardless of everything, we should also try to understand that however much there was also what we should be also understanding, that the net change, the private gains offset by the government losses, yielding a modest overall increase. Okay? Presents a cumulative private sector creation, almost 700k jobs since taking office. Well, it's not something that I won't say like it's a gain or something of that kind. No, but regardless of how much jobs were gained, we have to understand that unemployment has reached levels that are kind of bizarre and high. Simple terms, like unemployment has gone up almost at a percentage. We will be saying over 4.6%, from 4.3 to 4.6% in simple terms. And by understanding this, we should also try to understand that U.S. government or the U.S. economy, I'm not speaking about the U.S. government, I'm speaking on the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy, we have to understand that productivity has been at a all-time low in simple terms. Because if you understand why the stock market has been doing so well and why right now, if you try to understand just because of the AI, the money that has been injected into AI investment has been high all-time simple terms. It has been like really aggressive investments, and this has caused some kind of chaos, because if you look at the competitors like China and how China they're growing up fast and well, we should also try to understand that it's one of the claims that one cannot underlook in one or the other. We should try to understand that such a disclaimer means that the U.S. investment in AI has to be reinvestigated in one or the other. Because we will say the U.S. economy is doing well, because whenever you see the stock market doing well and everything, well, that counts in the GDP. However, the actual economy, the macroeconomy, is always kind of looking kind of low in simple terms. Like, it's not actually moving at all. See, we have what they call real GDP and I don't like calling like affect GDP, because that's where I'm going to bring in Hassett ideology of using the ADS or aggregate supply. What you're looking at right now, it's not something like you would say that you understand one or the other. But in simple terms, it's a macroeconomic tools showing the total spending a day and a total production, determining an economic equilibrium price level in real GDP. In illustration, in simple terms, we should try to understand that this indicates actual productivity growth of the economy according to the real GDP. Because I would say in a Hassett ideology is to show how the economy is running and how it's really productive. Because use productivity has been really slow. He also what he called like the supply shock. They want to use the supply shock in terms of what we'll be calling the well-known as something like to inject money where it's necessary, in simple terms. To inject money where they hope to be raising productivity, not just stimulating checks to anyone or anybody who could result to be kind of a consumer in one or the other. However, when Kevin Hassett was asked about what we tried to understand, that the AI productivity won't it increase the unemployment rate to go higher, the way he played out at this point was kind of a funny way. We should also try to understand that. Because we should also try to understand that defense in one or the other is not responsible for creating jobs in one way or the other. The best way what they are fighting for is to decrease unemployment and also keep interest rates at that normal cost, what they call normal cost that they haven't yet achieved, over the 2%. Regardless, he also claims that he is hoping to see getting an achievement over a 1% inflation and a 3% growth if he comes into or he becomes the chair. We should also try to understand that such a kind of an ideology is unachievable in such a kind of economy. Because we should try to understand. Let's just look at the president he's working with. I'm gonna look at Trump. See, Kevin may have an ideology, but we should also try to understand that politicians like to spend. When you still have more babies to be produced, like the big and the beautiful bill done by the U.S. president, I believe his ideology of achieving such goals may be underlooked. Because when Trump wants something, they want. I'm going to give you an example of Dodge that we just had 6 months ago. When Dodge was launched, everybody thought it's going to be the real big thing. It promised to be cutting the U.S. debt by almost $1 billion, almost $2 billion in simple terms, whatever, like for almost $1 trillion every year. As I speak of right now, Dodge is well gone. After 7 to 8 months, has been shut down, fully gone. We should also try to understand that in my way or the other, I would feel like the confidence Hassett is showing is he's too confident for what he's asking for or for what he's promising. I'm not saying it's unachievable. Yes, it's achievable. But we should also try to understand that this is also another stimulus check that's going to be getting implemented into the U.S. economy. This is something that's going to be highly inflationary in one or the other, because productivity doesn't just come out of thin air. It's understandable they need rates to be down, but regardless how rates are going down, unemployment is rising. The AI that's likely to be overtaking everyone is going to be highly misplacing many people, and many people are not likely to recover their jobs because AI is likely to fully replace them. He called it like AI is going to be a coach for employees to allocate them how to do their duties, but trust me, AI is likely to fully replace you. And I don't think AI is made, yes, in one way or the other, in many directions, because this AI things sometimes they go bizarre. But if there were, I'm going to give an example ratio, like if there were 10 employees and AI is implemented, at least 5 employees will keep their jobs. 5 of those employees may find themselves losing those kind of jobs in one or the other. We should also try to understand that such an ideology underlooks the manpower in one or the other. It keeps everything to be in a kind of a bizarre mode. I was expecting maybe Kevin Hassett to be speaking about things like the Fed trying to implement itself on the AI. Like they should, at least when they are replacing everyone, at least I believe also they should be also replacing themselves or adapting AI in one way, because they have what they call the slow data collection. The slow data collection always almost revised every after. So we're having that of November, but still this data needs to be revised again to have the actual numbers of November. I would highly recommend, I was expecting him to maybe to implement new data centers that could revise data fast as much as possible, so that the real economic data is seen. Because the data we have right now also has to be revised. We missed data over October because the economic, the government shutdown between the Democrats and Republicans, the fight of the political stand they have between one another. We should also try to understand that Kevin's ideology of trying to keep or having a goal of having a 1% inflation. There's no way you're going to receive such a kind of an inflation number on how the U.S. government spends. See, everyone might try to look at the Fed has something like the saving of the U.S. economy, which is totally wrong. We should also try to understand that the big elephant in the room is the U.S. government expenditure, the way how the U.S. government spends and the way how it allocates its funds. And we should try to understand most of the U.S. funds that are allocated are mostly under foreign policies, the war funding, anything, whatever, outside the U.S. However, home productivity has been taken at low levels. And if the U.S. turns out to be implementing or bringing out what I will be calling the factory sectors, has he said that they are likely to be they are likely to inject money in where they see productivity, where will their prices be competitive with the Chinese prices? Regardless. That's not because when you're injecting such kind of productivity, you expect to be producing the competitive prices, which is also a factor to look at. We should try to understand that through injecting more money in the economy, there's going to be loss of purchasing power. The purchasing power won't be kind of still be in man's hand. His kind of ideology of about the AI, trust me, he has a good ideology in one or the other, and I really respect it. But we should also try to understand, like it or not, this feel like another talk, but the slowdown in the economy is not going to stop. Trust me, the more you see the side of QE, because Trump always wanted to see rates going down, and rates are really going down. Jerome Powell said that they're going to be having what would be calling another cut next year, either 1 or 2. However, when he's out of office, trust me, expect things to change. Whoever Trump will be picking, either Kevin Hassett or anybody else, expect more cut rates in 1 month. And this indicates one, inflationary prices to be getting into place. Because regardless what they speak right now, it can only be verified by the results that are likely to be happening. His ideology is good, but I don't think it will be highly implemented. Because we have to understand, to have a goal of 1% inflation in the US economy, that's 3% right now. They are just fighting hard to keep it on 2%. And where we have issues that today the US is facing a problem that it cannot sell, is finding it hard to sell is long-term bonds, or the 10-year yield, the 30-year yield. Many people are looking at keeping themselves at the short-term bond yields. Okay, this indicates that the U.S. government is going to find itself in a term of servicing the U.S. interest debt highly and more and persistently over time. We should try to understand that his ideology isn't bad ideology, but the question, will it be really implemented? Otherwise, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.